Hello and welcome to my channel, Iuno Gaming. The future is here with Iuno's release, and she's weathering some waves as a flexible and full moon powered arrow resonator. In today's ultimate guide video, you'll learn everything you need to know about Iuno.
In my mark, the moon is full. Fate revealed. Praise me.
I know it, you know it, everybody knows it. We all like Iuno for her majestic design, innovative gameplay visuals, and feet. Iuno is a next level resonator who can not only repeatedly dive into the floor, not something I ever thought of wanting, but frankly that alone is incredible. She's also a fantastic healer, sub DPS, support, and main DPS, aka she's pretty much able to do everything, and she's excellent at all of it. As usual, we'll go through her kit, rotation, echoes and stats, weapons, sequences, teams, a showcase, and finally my opinion on Iuno at the end of the video. Quick note, this video was filmed on the media server and things may be subject to change upon the official release. Please check the comments below to see if anything changed.
The moon is full.
Iuno's kit is a bit complicated, with the usual Wuthering Waves encyclopedia of a kit, but I personally found her a smidge easier to understand than most characters after realizing I could ignore most of her kit. Regardless, I'm here to wane through all of this moon-related shenanigans so you don't have to. Iuno has 3 states. Iuno starts in her regular state, and you can use her Skill 2 or Liberation to enter Lunar Cycle Half Moon. Then simply jump while in Half Moon to enter Lunar Cycle Full Moon. Fortunately, only Lunar Cycle Full Moon really matters for most of us most of the time, because that's where she does almost all of her damage, provides healing, and generates a lot of extra concerto. There are technically 5 methods to go from regular Iuno to Half Moon Iuno to Full Moon Iuno, and we're going to talk about 3 of those methods. She can simply perform her Resonance Skill 1 and then Resonance Skill 2, which puts her into Half Moon state, where she can simply jump to enter Full Moon state. She can also use her Intro skill, which generates Forte and leads to her Resonance Skill 2, aka lets you skip her Resonance Skill 1. As mentioned, Resonance Skill 2 puts her into Half Moon state, where she can now simply jump to enter Full Moon state. Finally, she can use her Liberation, typically after an intro skill, although it doesn't have to be, which from her regular state puts her into Lunar Cycle Half Moon state, where she can again just jump to enter Full Moon state. On screen, you'll see the 5 main ways for Iuno to go from regular state to Lunar Cycle Full Moon, with the first 2 being the most commonly used methods in combat, although the third method is useful for the overworld. Once she's fully mooning you, she can spend her Forte bar to enhance her basic attacks. She can also spend her Forte bar to enhance her Resonance skill, which during full moon has 2 charges. Basics 1 through 3 consumes 50 of her 100 Forte, and Enhanced Resonance skill consumes 25 of her 100 Forte. As for generating Forte, Intro generates 40 Forte points, Liberation generates 60 Forte points, and Resonance skill 2, while she's in regular state or Half Moon state, generates 25 points, and her basics during Half Moon also generate Forte, but we don't talk about those. There is one more trick to keep in mind, that being that if you have any amount of Forte, the next ability Iuno uses will still be enhanced, even if it costs more than however much Forte you have. For example, after using her Liberation, Iuno will have 60 Forte. Enhanced Basics 1 through 3 costs 50 Forte, leaving you with just 10 Forte. However, despite Enhanced Skill consuming 25, it will instead consume whatever is left and still be enhanced. Next, let's talk about her Liberation, which as mentioned earlier does a few things. If Iuno is in regular state, her Liberation will cause her to enter Lunar Cycle Half Moon. However, if you're already in Lunar Cycle Half Moon or Full Moon, her Liberation won't change her lunar cycle, although it does refresh Lunar Cycle's duration. Also mentioned earlier, her Liberation generates 60 Forte and also deals a good amount of damage. Finally, she has a heavy attack, which is available when she has 100 Concerto. This heavy attack ends her lunar cycles and provides the team with the Full Moon Domain buff. This Full Moon Domain buff will restore HP and stamina for your Resonator, and it will also provide 4% damage amplification stacking up to 10 times whenever a character generates a shield. aka this part of the buff is currently best for Augusta. Note that this heavy attack has a long 25-second cooldown, and its cooldown is indicated by this icon. Alright, and while she's doing her full mooning forte spending shenanigans, she's healing the entire party because why not, and she's constantly generating a nearly negligible shield for herself when she does pretty much anything, so yeah, a pretty stacked kit, all things considered. And finally, Iuno's outro skill provides a whopping 50% heavy attack damage amplification for 14 seconds to the incoming resonator. And no, you cannot swap that resonator or else you will lose this buff, but yeah, this is the highest outro amplify for a main damage type, not including dots of course. For Iuno's talent priority, prioritize her forte, then her liberation. After that, you can level her skill, and lastly her intro and basics. Now, one great thing about Iuno is, her flexibility. And this flexibility is demonstrated through her rotations as well. Starting with this first rotation, which is a bit extended and balanced, and it's great for when you use her with Augusta. And it's the following. You intro her onto the field, use her skill 2, which puts her into lunar phase half moon, then you jump to enter full moon. Afterwards, you can use her liberation, and then her enhanced basics 1 through 3. Then use her enhanced skill, and I like to use her echo here, although you can use the echo whenever, and you can use a second enhanced skill, use the heavy attack, and then outro. Alternatively, Iuno has a much shorter rotation, good with other DPS characters, for example like with Jian. You can intro her on, use her liberation, which puts her into half moon, then jump to go to full moon. Then use enhanced basics 1 through 3, enhanced skill plus echo, enhanced skill, and then outro. Notice how we cut out Iuno's skill 2 and heavy attack because Jian doesn't benefit much from the healing and stamina provided by her heavy attack. Now of course we can extend Iuno's rotation if desired here, but having the ability to perform such short rotations like this one is great. Then we have main DPS Iuno, and I'm not going to read it all, but just take a look at what's on the screen. This rotation takes advantage of the better forte management, using the earlier trick of using her enhanced skill when she only has a bit of forte left. At the end of this rotation, we can also use a few unenhanced basics to deal non-negligible damage and to take up a bit more field time because otherwise her rotation is a bit too short with most supports. And here is a quick example of a full team rotation for one of the newest best teams in the game with Shorekeeper and Augusta. Personally, I find these full team rotations pretty helpful for myself, although sadly I can't do this for every team because there are so many, but if you do find this helpful, let me know down in the comments below.
The moon is full.
We've made it to Iuno's Echoes. Iuno should run the standard Iuno it 4-3-3-1-1 setup. For the main stats is the usual crit and slot 4. As for crit rate or crit damage, usually it's crit damage with her signature gauntlets and other gauntlets that have crit rate as a secondary stat, and for the other gauntlets I recommend crit damage. For the 3 cost echoes, it's the usual arrow damage setup, with 1 attack percent being quite usable, but with 2 attack percents being not recommended. And for the 1 cost echoes, needless to say, it's attack percent. As for the echo set, the 3-piece Crown of Valor is the perfect set for her, providing attack percent and crit damage. Also, you should equip the Lady of the Sea as the main echo, as it provides 12% arrow damage and 12% liberation damage. For the 2-piece set, the 2-piece Sierra Gale is the best one, with the 2-piece Moonlit Clouds and Lingering Tunes also being usable option. Finally, a hipster echo set option includes running her on the 5-piece Moonlit Clouds to support like a hypercarry like Augusta. But overall, I recommend the previous Crown of Valor plus 2-piece Sierra Gale setup, since it'll work for any and all of Iuno's playstyles. As for her energy regen requirements, for the balanced rotation, which you'll probably use on most teams, her energy requirements are actually quite low, technically only needing around 116%, but I personally found around 130% to be much more comfortable. For her short rotation, you might need more energy, and I recommend experimenting and or using the balanced rotation if you find yourself having energy issues. For substats, it's the usual crit rate and crit damage. Then, attack percent and however much energy regen you need, and liberation damage. Finally, flat attack is not useless either. We can see that most of Iuno's damage is liberation damage, so she does scale quite well off of that. Iuno's weapons are actually a bit interesting and slightly deviate from the expected pattern. You know what I'm about to say, her signature gauntlets, the Moon Gazer's Sigil, is her best option. Unconventionally though, Shangli Yao's signature gauntlets, the Verity's Handle, is almost as good as her signature gauntlets are, and frankly, if you have that, I wouldn't bother pulling for her signature gauntlets. Now looking at this chart, we have both Iuno's damage ratio and the team's damage ratio. These calcs are done with her being used on the same team as Augusta, who does most of the team's damage. Iuno's damage will matter more on other teams and will matter the most if you play main DPS Iuno, so do keep that in mind when making your decision around her weapon. The other signature 5-star gauntlets, like the Blazing Justice and the Tragic Comedy, are reasonable stat sticks for her. And both the Battle Pass gauntlets at Refinement 5 are reasonable options, however they're not much better than the Strongbox gauntlets, the Abyss Surges, so you can just use that. As for a purely free-to-play friendly option, the craftable Legend of Drunken Heroes, I guess, is her, well, you know, best option, and it ain't looking good.
The moon is full.
Next up, we have the perfect section for those who made a fortune taping bananas to walls, Iuno's sequences and investment priority. Iuno's sequence 1 provides both a solid damage boost and interrupt resistance. Personally, if my best weapon option was one of the weapons around the Abyss Surge's performance, I'd pull for her weapon first. But with Shangli Yao's weapon, I would definitely go for her Sequence 1 instead. Sequence 2 is great with Augusta, but a smidge less good without Augusta. Sequence 3 provides more damage for Iuno and is a good stopping point. Sequence 4 provides a shield and is just an expensive stepping stone. Sequence 5 provides 20% liberation damage to just herself, and Sequence 6 massively buffs her heavy attack and provides her better rotations as a main DPS character. Overall though, I think Sequence 0 Iuno is already a fantastic character, at least if you have a reasonable weapon option. Thanks to Iuno's flexibility, she has a decent amount of team options. Unsurprisingly though, she's best in slot for Augusta, and along with Shorekeeper, they make one of the new strongest teams in the entire game. Besides Augusta, we also have Jiyan, where Iuno is basically Mortefi plus Ultra, providing Jiyan that massive 50% heavy attack outro. Funnily, even as a sub-DPS healing outro bot, Iuno is doing nearly as much damage as Jiyan, but that's neither here nor there. Then we have main DPS Iuno, where you can use Chikona and Shorekeeper to boost Iuno's damage, making her a very competitive main DPS character as well. You can use Arrow Rover if Shorekeeper is needed on another team, which she probably is, or you can even use Jianshin for her Liberation Amplify outro. Iuno can even be used with Zani, as she benefits from the stamina regeneration that Iuno provides. And remember, Iuno is a healer as well, so you're not running a glass cannon team without a healer here. As we can see, Iuno has many powerful teams at her disposal, and here are some team calcs for you all to take a look at.
The moon is full.
Alrighty, I've got a few quick showcases for you guys, and this is in the newish tower, I think, with the, 4 bosses in the center tower, or 4, level 100. I keep saying it's because I've got Iuno brain rot right now. All I can think about is Iuno, as well as her shooting her toe cheese at the enemy, which is pretty funny. The first time I've ever seen weaponized toe cheese, but yeah, there we go. So Iuno here is supporting Augusta, and this team actually feels pretty ridiculous, all things considered. Now, do keep in mind that this tower is, of course, very, very biased towards this specific team. So this team will be outperforming compared to what it normally would because of all the tower buffs and stuff. There's like buffs that favor shielded characters, heavy attack, and all this stuff. So yeah, this team is on crack, and it is just going to go crazy, all things considered. Augusta, of course, feels great, and one nice thing about Augusta's shorter rotations, which is pretty interesting, is that Iuno here actually does want to use her balanced rotation in order to fill up the time for the 25-second cooldowns of her as well as Augusta, in order to, well, just provide a smoother rotation experience. But anyway, these bosses here just get absolutely chopped up and demolished by Augusta's big damage with her time freeze, liberation, all this crazy stuff going on. We've got the Moon, we've got Augusta. This is, this is an absolutely crazy team. You can see just how much nuke damage that Augusta's doing there on her last hit with a very satisfying 300,000 damage hit, as well as Iuno's damage looking pretty impressive as well. And this is, of course, Iuno being more of a support slash outro, heavy attack outro buffer for Augusta. But you can just see that, yeah, she just casually does 231,000 damage because why not? I mean, this character just does everything at this point. We have 2 healers on this team, which perhaps in the future, Shorekeeper will be the one to go once we get another type of, I don't know, some other character that can benefit this team. But that's just pure speculation, of course. Perhaps Shorekeeper will be everlasting. But anyway, this next team is a fun one with Iuno being the main DPS character, with Chacona here supporting her, and this team felt pretty great to use, in my opinion, all things considered. Rotations felt pretty smooth, although I will say I had a bit of energy issues with Chacona, as well as actually I think just with Chacona. I don't know, I just feel like I often have energy issues with her, despite like on paper this is how much energy she needs. Perhaps it's because the Forte ticks need to hit in order for the energy to be fully regenerated, so that means that you're just kind of floundering around on the field for a little bit waiting for the Forte tick. I don't know, I'm just yapping at this point. Really have to go frame by frame to analyze that, but it's fine. Who cares if you have to spend 1 extra second on field with Chacona because she needs a bit more energy. I just keep yapping, but here we go. A big damage nuke upcoming, I think. What was that? Over 300,000 damage, something like that. I mean, that's kind of crazy. You've got Jin C levels of nukes with Iuno here, who is of course a very, very multifaceted, multi-rolled character, really demonstrating the power of newer characters in Wuthering Waves, and probably what we can expect moving forward when it comes to these characters and new DPS ceilings reached. All this stuff, all this great stuff when it comes to the modern characters in this game. So diving into the floor is also very satisfying, if I do say so myself. And there's one other thing about Iuno that she feels like, I guess in a way, a bit safer than many other characters because of how high in the air she is. I rarely found myself getting smacked around. In fact, the enemies were just kind of like, what do I do? Sometimes it ends up so high in the air. And also, flows quite well with Gian. The shorter rotation technically, I believe, fits the 25-second cooldown a bit better. However, I did find myself having energy issues with the short rotation on Iuno. And that's the thing about Iuno as well, is that because she does so much damage herself, it's probably fine to do the balance rotation or even a bit longer than that, instead of like going for a shorter team rotation with Gian, because again, look at that, she just casually does 200,000 damage. Each of those shots are doing 50,000 damage, and Gian himself, he does decent damage too, but we're talking like 13k per tick, but there's a lot more ticks than that. But yeah, so yeah, overall though, if you can't tell, I think Iuno is a fantastic character, very, very strong, very fun to play as well, and her getting interrupted also doesn't feel as punishing as with many characters, which is great. So yeah, if you like what you see, you know what to do, I know what to do, we all know what to do, and that is probably to pull for Iuno if that's something that you want to do.
The moon is full.
In my opinion, Iuno is a fantastic character, compressing the role of healer, secondary DPS, largest heavy attack outro buff, and main DPS all into one. While she might be a jack of all trades, she's also a master of all of them in my opinion. Her elevating Gian to very strong levels, as well as pushing Augusta above and beyond, are extra added bonuses for her relevance in Wuthering Waves. Overall, it's hard to go wrong with her, and if you are in need of enhancing any of these teams, then yeah, you know what to do. And I'm certain there are many other applications that weren't covered in this video, so be sure to let us know down in the comments below. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Want to Lose, signing out.